Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're diving straight into a really profound observation that comes from a beautifully written story about something totally mundane, a morning commute. Look, we've all been on that train, right? The one where literally every single person is just glued to their smartphone. But what happens when you spot someone doing something entirely different? Well, let's set the scene.
Picture this. It's late May. You're on a train on a crisp, refreshing weekend morning. The light filtering in through the windows is super soft. It has that distinct, relaxed, kind of white space feeling that you really only get on a weekend. But inside the actual train car, despite the gorgeous morning outside, there is just this uniform, heavy stillness. Everyone's head is bowed. Everyone is just passively scrolling, bathed in the blue glow of their screens, completely tuned out from their physical surroundings. It's quiet, it's routine, and it is entirely passive.
But then, out of nowhere, that quiet is broken. The husband in our story, who's sitting right next to his wife, suddenly drops his voice and urgently whispers, "That person is amazing. Look, the woman's sitting diagonally across from us." And this wasn't just a casual passing comment. He was completely animated, honestly like a child who had just unearthed a hidden treasure in the sandbox. His gaze is so intense, so filled with pure fascination, that his wife playfully worries his staring might actually physically reach the woman across the aisle.
So what was this woman doing that was so captivating? Well, amidst this giant sea of passive smartphone scrollers, she was sitting there, fully engaged, writing frantically in a notebook with a mechanical pencil. It's such a striking juxtaposition when you think about it. On one side, you have the effortless, thumb-swiping, endless consumption of the digital age. And on the other, the deliberate, physical, almost urgent scratching of lead against paper. She wasn't just existing in that space, she was actively creating within it. And it gets even more intense. Turns out, he had actually been watching her since they were out on the train platform. She was writing out there. When the train arrived and she got on, she kept right on writing while standing up holding the rail. And now, having finally snagged a seat, she was still going. I mean, this wasn't someone just jotting down a quick grocery list. She had this undeniable aura of someone who absolutely had to write. It was a deep compulsion. She literally couldn't stop herself from getting whatever was bouncing around in her head down onto that paper.
Right as that realization sinks in, acknowledging that choosing a notebook over a smartphone in transit is actually pretty awesome, there's a second discovery. He whips his head around and reports, "Look over there, that older woman is writing in a small pocketbook too." At this point, he has basically turned into the train carriage's unofficial chief observer. But this second sighting really cements the fascination. This wasn't just one isolated incident. There were multiple people in the single train car actively staging a quiet rebellion against the digital norm. His reaction to all this is just pure, wide-eyed appreciation. He looks over, literal stars in his eyes, and says, "They are doing something analog, but isn't it kind of great?" And it is. It's a genuine moment of being moved by the tangible, physical act of creation happening right in front of him, right in the middle of a highly digital, intangible environment. It's recognizing the beauty and effort in taking the slower, more deliberate path when the fast, frictionless digital alternative is literally in everyone else's hands. But then, the conversation takes a wildly unexpected turn. Inspired by this whole idea of information and what we actually do with it, he launches into a rapid-fire barrage of random TV trivia. Listen to this. Did you know squid cannot be farmed? The word ponzu, yeah, that actually comes from Dutch. All those different colored shaved ice syrups, they all taste exactly the same. Oh, and the left hole of a standard electrical outlet is slightly longer. It's just this sudden, overwhelming info dump, and it perfectly mimics the kind of endless, disconnected feed we scroll through every single day. Okay, wait, let's hit the brakes and just pause for a second. Listening to all those random facts, a really crucial question emerges. Why doesn't this information move the heart? The trivia is amusing, sure, it's kind of fun, but even if you listen to all of it, your heart doesn't skip a beat. It doesn't resonate on any real level. It's just data. It flows right past you, in one ear and out the other, leaving absolutely zero emotional footprint behind. And the big philosophical takeaway here is that we simply cannot let ourselves be swept away by that digital stream. Think about it. If you just stand in the river of internet trivia and social media feeds, you are eventually going to drown in it. Looking back to those women writing in their notebooks, the realization hits hard. Like them, we have to actively output ourselves. The contrast is super clear. Passive consumption makes you a vessel that information simply flows through, but active output, that anchors you. It forces you to actually engage with the world. Now, because this epiphany feels so incredibly vital, his delivery gets a little carried away.
Right there in the middle of this quiet weekend train, he drops this loud, overly dramatic, full-on retro anime hero voice and declares, "Let me explain." It's such a funny, charming moment that honestly required his wife to mentally plead with him to lower the volume. But, it highlights just how urgent this realization felt to him in that exact second. It felt like the code of modern consumption had just been cracked.
The core realization here is incredibly stark. Information you simply bathe in, the endless doom scrolling, the random trivia facts, leaves absolutely nothing behind inside of you. You can consume massive amounts of data all day long, from morning till night. But if that is literally all you do, you remain completely empty. You haven't synthesized it, you haven't questioned it, it just washes over you and goes straight down the drain. So how do we fix this? How does this build into a practical framework for true comprehension? Well, it breaks down into 3 simple steps. Step 1. You have to actually pause and notice what you feel, or what you found, out there in the world. Step 2. You must physically move your hands to externalize it. That could be writing, drawing, whatever. Just create something. And step 3, by pushing that thought out of your head and into the physical world, you finally make the experience truly yours. Moving your hands is the essential bridge between passive observation and active ownership. Think back to those 2 women on the train again. The absolutely crucial difference here is that they were not writing for an audience. They weren't drafting a snappy post to get likes or trying to build a following. They were writing for themselves. They were desperately trying to catch a fleeting inner spark, a thought, an observation, a passing feeling before it just vanished into the ether. In a world totally optimized for broadcasting everything to everyone all the time, there's something profoundly grounding about moving your hands simply to capture your own inner dialogue. Ultimately, these women are given a pretty grand, inspiring title in the story: creative adventurers. What does that actually mean? Well, a creative adventurer is a person who actively captures their inner discoveries to preserve their unique humanity against the endless digital tide. I love this concept. By elevating the super mundane act of scribbling on a commuter train into a heroic act of self-preservation, it reminds us that maintaining our inner life takes active, deliberate effort. It's quite literally an adventure of the mind. The story wraps up beautifully. Looking around that train, there's just this moment of pure, unironic joy. What a wonderful day to meet them. Now that might sound a little dramatic, but there's a quiet envy in witnessing someone's ability to constantly discover the world, right? To spot these quiet creators and be genuinely moved by them. Next to the silent, passive scrolling of the rest of the carriage, that noisy optimism and hopeful worldview really stands out. It's its own kind of bright, shining analog creation. Which brings us to the end of this explainer. And I want to leave you with a really critical question to ask yourself today. We are all living in that digital stream, constantly bombarded with facts, trivia, and endless feeds. So, what does your balance of passive consumption versus active creation look like? How are you capturing your own inner discoveries before they flow away and are lost forever? The next time you find yourself with a free moment on a bus or a train, maybe, just maybe, try reaching for a notebook instead of a screen. Thanks so much for joining me, and keep exploring.